You are the most high God. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Passion Based Global Trading Institute. This is our cryptography and cryptocurrency module 2, unit 5, comparative analysis, how token classification can shape or how they have been shaping regulation and adoption. This is Passion Based Global Training Institute, like I said, and we're moving on straight. We're here to empower revivalists, uproot ungodliness, and build legacy. So we must not forget the cycle of revival and the importance for us to understand more about what's going on and how revival our programs can be embedded to support even more people. Okay. Okay, so why comparative analysis? Why does it matter? Okay, remember I mentioned about the token categories. These token categories actually influence the legal treatment, okay, and the relationship they shape investors' confidence. The regulation itself shapes if it's not regulated, there's less confidence in it. Okay, and if it's adopted, it depends on the clarity of that classification. So because people don't want to put their money where they don't understand, so every utility token has different rules like security, utility, governance, even the hybrid, they all have different rules. So there needs to be a comparative studies which then highlights the strength and the risks of each one of them, thereby helping learners to understand the real world impact of these types of token, and then it builds foundation for responsible innovation. So security tokens and regulation. Okay, security tokens, like I said in previous unit, is treated as a security under the financial law, and they have to comply with regulations. They must disclose. Okay, and of course, investors' protection is essential. It's usually offered. It's usually limited in terms of offering for accredited investors, and of course legal certainty and trust is embedded, is part of the requirement. Okay, adoption is also slower because of the compliance cost, like I said to you earlier, is huge, and therefore it can also be a bridge between traditional finance and blockchain. In terms of utility token, okay, their regulation, remember, it's about access to services, but not really the ownership of the token itself, and it's often exempt from securities law. There's a risk of misclassification if it's sold as an investment. Okay, if it's sold as an investment, it's got to come in form of, like the club card and etc. And regulators, they monitor token sales closely. Okay, adoption is easier due to fewer restrictions, and is popular in the D apps and ecosystem. Its value is tied to its usefulness, not its legal rights. Governance tokens and regulations. Remember, I mentioned about governance token is more about the voting rights in the project. Legal status is less clearly defined, and it may overlap with security token, especially if tied to the profit. Regulators that are still exploring that framework itself, just to make sure that it's suitable. And adoption is very strong in decentralized communities. It encourages democratic participation, and it shapes project direction without central authority. Stable coins and regulations. That one, like I said in previous unit, is pegged to a fiat currency or asset, so like DigiCash or the dollar itself. Regulators, they focus on reserve transparency, and this kind of token is seen as a financial instrument, not just a security. In fact, not even security. Its adoption depends on trust in backing. Okay, is used widely for payment and trading, and it requires compliance with money transmission laws. It bridges crypto with traditional currencies. In terms of the hybrid tokens and regulations, it combines the features of multiple categories, like we mentioned in Unit 4, and Unit 4, yeah, and it creates complexity for regulators. So it also triggers or may trigger multiple legal frameworks depending on which combination is chosen. So therefore, the design is, it requires a careful consideration, and adoption also depends on the clarity of its purpose. There's a risk of confusion to investors because they might be thinking it's a security token, okay, when it's not. So it's essential that we explain what it is and what is not to investors. And this is one of the reasons why we're running this, because we've got our own cryptocurrency as well, which is called root out token. So I'm just letting you know again and again, root out token is a utility token at the moment. Okay, that's the very best easier way, because the requirement is heavy. Okay, and innovation often outpaces regulation. So adoption drivers across category, we've mentioned a lot about them, about security token, utility, governance tokens, stable coins, hybrid. They all have different adoption category across different drivers. Rather, what drives the adoption? Number one, security is because of trust and compliance. Utility is because of ease of use and access. Governance is simply because of the community engagement. Stable coins is of course stability. It stabilizes the cryptocurrency world and payments, and can be used as a dollar. Hybrid is just because of the versatility and the innovation. This one is a very good one for anyone who, people have great ideas and they want to, to get more people together. And the adoption is shaped by regulation and clarity. So depends on which category appeals to different users. So let's look at everyday analogy for the regulation. So look at the licenses, vehicle licenses. So for instance, a car requires road license, which is it's a security token. Bicycles, they need fewer rules. That's utility tokens, just services. Community bosses, they need voting boards, which is the governance token. Taxi need financial oversight, which is stable coins, whereas hybrid are like electric scooters. Every time there is a new rule evolving. And I mean, regulation is just to ensure that there is security and there is safety, and being able to adopt it, it really, really depends on clear rules. So let's look at the global perspective. In United States, strict securities enforcement is what goes on. In European Union, we have the Maker framework for tokens. In Asia, there are varied approaches. Some are very supportive of crypto, some are very restrictive. Now, stable coins, everyone, every part of the world is scrutinizing that. Governance token at the moment is less regulated globally, and hybrid tokens, they challenge regulators everywhere. And adoption varies by region and by legal clarity. So the recap here of comparative analysis: token categories, they shape regulation and adoption. When it comes to security token, strict compliance; utility token, easier to use, but there is a risk of misclassification; governance token, community power, unclear regulation; stable coins, we talk about payment, reserve oversight; hybrid, innovation, of course, with complex rules; and there's still evolving global regulation. Okay, and that brings us to the end of module 2 unit 5. Module 2 unit 5. Thank God for that. I really, really appreciate God for making this a possibility. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. I might come back on Facebook. I just thought I need to check which units I haven't done. But remember, this is a short course on cryptocurrency. We'll still need to do more later. Thank you for listening.